I've worked in the ER for over 18 years, at a level 1 trauma center in Pennsylvania. We see it all: crashes, strokes, overdoses, heart attacks. The kind of place where shift change feels more like changing battalions than clocks. The night this happened, I was charge nurse. We were short-staffed as usual. The census was full, half our patients were holds waiting on ICU beds, and I had 2 floaters who didn't know our charting system. Still, I remember everything about that shift. I wish I didn't. Room 9 was on comfort care. That's what we call it when curative treatment stops and our role shifts to making someone's final hours as peaceful and dignified as possible. The patient, Mr. Harold Simmons, 84, came in the evening before, chronic CHF. He had been declining at home. His daughter brought him in when his breathing worsened, and by the time we ran his labs and scanned his chest, it was clear there wasn't much to do except ease him out. He wasn't responsive, but his daughter was there for most of the day, quiet, grieving, holding his hand. Around 11:40 p.m. she told me she needed to go home for a couple hours. She lived just 10 minutes away. "I'll be back before the morning," she said. I nodded. We're used to that. Sometimes families need space to process. I reassured her we'd keep him comfortable. I even double-checked his morphine PCA settings and noted in the MAR when I last titrated his dose. Everything clean. Everything logged. What happened next still makes me question every assumption I've made about this job. At 1:08 a.m., Nurse Kayla, who was on her first travel contract with us, told me someone had gone into room 9. She didn't say anything, just nodded and walked in, Kayla said. What did she look like, I asked, already heading down the corridor. Older woman, all black, like funeral-type black. Even the gloves, visitors that late. Extremely rare, especially unannounced, and especially in our unit where visitors must be buzzed in, badge logged, and physically escorted past the double-door security checkpoint. I entered the room quietly. Mr. Simmons looked unchanged, still, breathing shallow, waxy and drawn. And there, seated next to him, was a woman. She wasn't doing anything alarming, just sitting beside him, her gloved hands folded on her lap. Her head was bowed slightly, like she was in prayer. Her outfit looked dated, like something you'd see in a 1960s funeral photo. Heavy wool coat, thick veil over her face. She didn't look up when I entered. "Ma'am," I said gently, "are you family?" She nodded, once. I didn't press. "I just need to verify your name for our visitor log. For security, I hope you understand." She didn't respond, didn't speak, just stayed there, quiet, respectful. I should have pushed harder, but something about her demeanor, it wasn't threatening. It felt solemn, intentional. So I let her be. I updated Kayla, told her I'd follow up in 15. When I returned, the woman was gone. I checked the hallway, the waiting room, even the visitor restroom. No sign of her. Then I went to the security office. We pulled footage immediately. Our ER has 6 cameras covering the visitor entrance, lobby and corridor intersections, one on every hallway entry point. We scrubbed from 12:30 to 1:30. No one had entered. Not a single badge swipe. No buzz-in request. No one seen walking through the corridor. We even checked environmental services and security shift logs. Nobody matched that description. No contractors. No family. No clergy. I asked Kayla again, this time with the urgency I hadn't had earlier. "You saw her come in?" I said. She nodded. "I assumed you knew her. She looked like she belonged, but she didn't. We logged it as an undocumented visitor, per protocol. I wrote a detailed incident report, filed it before the end of shift. Risk management interviewed us the next day. I gave my full account: time, appearance, interaction, lack of ID, lack of log. They concluded it as a possible internal miscommunication. But here's the part that's hardest to explain. When Mr. Simmons' daughter returned at sunrise, she walked into room 9 and just stopped. I saw the look on her face. She turned to me and said, "You let her come." I blinked. "Ma'am, I'm sorry." The woman in the black veil. My father always said she'd come for him when it was his time. He saw her once when he had a heart attack years ago. She looked down at her father. He had passed sometime between 3:20 and 3:30 a.m. Peaceful. Clean. But the telemetry log? That's where it gets stranger. His pulse rate dipped to 30 BPM at 1:18 a.m., then again at 1:22, briefly spiked at 1:29, flatlined at 3:27, almost like there was something visiting. I don't have answers, and I don't make claims beyond what I can verify, but I know what I saw. I know we didn't buzz anyone in. I know I entered that room and spoke to a woman who vanished into thin air without a trace, without a log, without any digital footprint. And I know I've never seen her again, but I've asked around, quietly, in nurses' stations, during late shifts, Other ER nurses have stories too, and some of them describe her exactly the same way. Veil, gloves, black coat, always visiting patients whose families couldn't be there, always leaving without a sound. We may not log her, but I think someone does. Somewhere. Hello friends, and thank you so much for tuning in. A special shout out to our incredible subscribers. Your support keeps these creepy, fascinating, and sometimes even comforting stories alive. But here's something to think about. Only about 30% of our viewers are subscribed. If you enjoy our content, hitting that subscribe button helps more than you might realize. It only takes a second, but it makes a world of difference. While you're at it, a like and share go a long way in keeping these eerie tales coming. Thank you again for being part of this journey. You're the reason we're here. See you in the next one, if you dare. Working in emergency medicine means dealing with chaos in real time. You prioritize based on acuity. You rely on protocol, and you build a wall in your mind to separate what you feel from what you need to do. Most days that wall holds, but every now and then something slips through. Something that doesn't belong in a trauma bay or chart. Something that has no medical code, no ICD tag, and no clean explanation. This happened over the course of 6 days, right before Christmas 2 years ago. Our ER was full, double boarded in some sections, psych holds spilling over from upstairs. We were rotating hallway beds to get everyone seen. The flu was hitting hard. COVID protocols were still active. The entire department was on edge. The first patient was a woman in her late 40s. Status post-MVC, minor head trauma, brief LOC at the scene. Alert and oriented when EMS brought her in. CT was negative, vitals stable. We were just monitoring for a few hours before discharge. She seemed calm, until around 3 a.m. she asked if the power had gone out. I said no. Then she asked if I'd seen him, the man in the hallway with no face. I figured she was confused. Maybe post-concussive, maybe something deeper. I made a note, checked her neuro status, and gently redirected. She didn't push, but she looked past me, toward the curtain, like she expected to see something standing there. Didn't think much of it. Until 3 days later. Second patient was an elderly male, 72, with CHF and pneumonia. A hold from the ICU, boarded in Bay 6 until a room opened up. Completely lucid. Had been talking about his wife, asking for warm blankets, even cracking dry jokes with the techs. At 2:45 a.m., I caught him staring at the ceiling, eyes wide, jaw tight. I asked if he was okay. He said, "He's at the end of the hallway again. Same as last night. No face. Just standing there." He wasn't delirious. His oxygen was fine. No meds out of range. I checked everything. His labs, his blood sugar. Even had a PA do a bedside neuro screen. Clean. He never mentioned it again, until he coded. 12 hours later, rapid response was called. He didn't make it. That's when I started paying attention. The third one, that's what shook me. Young male, early 20s. Came in post-OD, stabilized, now awaiting psych evaluation. He had no idea about the other 2 patients. Different wing, different nurses, different days. He was sketching something when I went in to check his IV. A hallway. Dark, long, lights overhead, broken and flickering. And at the end of it, just like the others, a tall figure with no face, wearing what looked like old torn clothing, almost like medical scrubs, but too worn, too stained. I asked him who it was. He said, "I see him every night. Just standing there, watching. He doesn't move, doesn't talk, but every time I look away and look back, he's closer." I asked if he had seen that image before, on TV, online, anywhere. "No," he said. "He's mine. No one else sees him." That same day I pulled up the previous 2 patient charts. Different names, different histories, different units, different shifts. Same dream, same man, no face, no cause, no connection, all charted separately. Psych evals gave different theories. Stress, subconscious fear, dissociative reactions, but none of them could explain the consistency. No cross-contamination, no overlap in care. And then it stopped. No one else reported it, no one else saw him. But I still checked the hallway cams every night before clocking out, just in case, because medicine doesn't account for everything. And in this line of work, when 3 people see the same impossible thing, you learn to stop calling it coincidence. Sunday mornings in the ER are unpredictable. It's either chaos or calm, and there's no in-between. That morning leaned toward calm. We had no traumas on the board, The psych holds were under control, and triage was mostly flu-like symptoms and a couple of nursing home transports. One of those transports was a patient from a long-term skilled facility, Ms. Lillian Pierce, 84 years old, post-stroke, hemiparesis on the right, and nonverbal from a previous left-sided MCA infarct. Her baseline, according to the SNF records, was alert but aphasic. She couldn't talk, couldn't write, but could follow commands and track with her eyes. She had a do not resuscitate and do not intubate order in place, signed by her daughter and documented properly. The facility sent her in because of sudden changes, increased blood pressure, a new irregular heartbeat, and some mild hypoxia. There was concern about possible new onset AFib or a secondary stroke, so they did what they were supposed to do, called EMS and shipped her in. I remember her clearly. Frail, bony, skin nearly translucent under our fluorescent lights. Her breathing was slightly labored, but nothing we don't see dozens of times a week. She responded when I spoke to her, locking eyes with me and blinking twice for yes, once for no. That sort of communication. Her telemetry was hooked up right away. Sinus rhythm, occasional PVCs, heart rate in the low 90s. Blood pressure was high but not unexpected. O2 saturation hovered in the 93-94% range on room air. We gave her a nasal cannula, drew labs and paged for neuroconsult. We placed her in Bay 3, closest to the station, partly because of her age and condition, but mostly because it gave us line of sight if something changed quickly. She was alert, calm, no signs of acute stroke on initial exam. Around 10:30 a.m., I stepped out for 5 minutes to help place an NG in Bay 6. When I came back, I saw Carlos, one of our nursing assistants, standing just outside Bay 3, not frozen but unsettled, staring into the room with this strange tension in his face. "She moved," he said, without looking at me. "She moved her hand. I brushed it off at first." "She's hemiparetic," I said. "Maybe a posturing reflex?" "No," he said. "She lifted it, up, slowly. She was pointing at something." I stepped in. She was awake, eyes wide, looking toward the far left corner of the room, opposite the crash cart, opposite the clock, just a blank space of wall where nothing was mounted. Her right arm, the one that had been limp on arrival, was up, trembling slightly. Yes, but not spasming, not uncontrolled. It wasn't reflex, it wasn't flailing, it was pointed, fingers extended, hand leveled, straight toward the empty corner. I walked closer and gently touched her left shoulder. "Miss Pierce," I said, "what do you see?" She didn't move her head, didn't blink, didn't look at me, still pointing, still focused. I checked her telemetry. Heart rate 91, BP 144/86, O2 94% on 2L. I moved to reposition her gently, and as I did, her hand dropped. No resistance, no fight, it just fell. The monitor went off less than 30 seconds later. Heart rate 63, then 50. BP began to fall, fast, then flatline. I hit the code button. Even though she had a DNR, we were obligated to verify everything before halting. Our attending ran in, confirmed, no pulse, no respirations, pupils fixed and dilated, no CPR, per directive. Time of death 11:43 a.m. I sat with her body for a few minutes after. It felt wrong to just walk out. Later I charted the entire episode, every detail, vital trends, her facial expression, the gesture. I logged the exact time she pointed, and the precise moment her telemetry changed. I didn't include interpretation. We're not allowed to speculate in documentation. But I noted the facts. No movement for hours prior. Sudden arm lift. Pointed to empty corner. Death within 90 seconds. What I didn't include, that Carlos and I both felt the room drop a degree. Like the air got heavier, denser. The kind of shift you feel, not measure. We pulled security footage out of curiosity. Nothing abnormal. No staff walking in. No shadows. Just me, Carlos, and a woman who knew something, seconds before her body let go. The daughter came in an hour later. Grief hit hard. But then she asked, suddenly, was she pointing again? I looked at her. What do you mean? She did that once before. After my dad died. She pointed to the corner of the hospice room. Same thing. Then just went still. I don't offer theories. I don't chase ghosts. But I charted that death. I held her hand afterward. I watched her eyes focus with clarity on something no one else could see. In this line of work, death isn't a surprise. It's the timing that gets you. And sometimes it feels like someone else is in the room when it happens. Not every death is sudden, but some come right on cue. And some patients seem to know exactly when it's time to let go. Middle of swing shift. We were down one nurse and two techs because of a flu outbreak in staff housing, and triage was backed out the door. The kind of shift where you don't sit, you barely chart on time, and everyone's working one patient ahead and two behind. Around 7:30 p.m., paramedics brought in a walk-in male. Mid-30s, stable vitals, complain of chest tightness and dizziness. Alert, oriented, cooperative. He wasn't in any distress when I first saw him, just a little pale and winded. What caught me off guard was what he said when I came to take him to a bed. "Can my brother come back with me?" he asked. I looked toward the doors, expecting someone else to walk in behind him. No one. "I can ask," I told him, "but I didn't see anyone come in with you." He smiled, tired, like someone who hadn't slept much. He was just here, walked me in. I paused. Was he outside with EMS? "No," he said. He walked me in through the lobby. He didn't want me driving myself. I double-checked the intake camera feed and the triage board. No mention of a second person. The registrar said she saw him enter alone, talking, yes, but not to anyone she could see. Still, we get people like that all the time, especially with stress-induced events. Hallucinations, panic reactions. You learn to stay grounded, polite, factual. As we got him onto the bed in Bay 7, I asked gently, "What's your brother's name? Maybe I can check if he's in the waiting room." He looked up at me like I was missing something obvious. "Mark," he said. "He died last summer." I stopped moving for just a second. "He walked me in," he added, like it was the most normal thing in the world. We were talking about football, arguing over the Eagles again. He wasn't manic, he wasn't rambling. His pupils were normal, speech coherent, no history of psychiatric illness in his chart, no recent meds or substance concerns flagged. He laid back and let us hook him up to the monitor. Sinus tachycardia, nothing extreme. BP was mildly elevated. His O2 sat was perfect. I stepped out and pulled the security footage from the front entrance, just to satisfy my own curiosity. There he was on camera, coming through the automatic doors, talking, moving his hands, nodding occasionally, gesturing like someone was beside him, but no one was there. Frame by frame, he moved in tandem with someone. He kept to the right side of the walkway, like he was giving someone space. Even reached out at one point to push the imaginary door open wider. I called security over. We reviewed it 3 times. No shadows, no glitches, no one edited the feed. We ran thermal imaging on the lobby sensor data. Nothing showed heat signatures except him. He walked in completely alone, talking to someone we couldn't see. When I returned to his room, he was resting quietly, not asleep, but calm. I asked one more time, "Are you sure your brother walked you in?" He didn't even open his eyes. "He always said he'd be there when I needed him," he said. "And I guess tonight, I did." He didn't need admission. His labs were clean. No cardiac markers. No arrhythmias beyond benign PVCs. He was discharged 3 hours later with a follow-up scheduled for outpatient. But before he left, he looked toward the same empty space near the nurse's desk and said softly, "I'm good now. You can go." Then he walked out through the same doors he came in through. Alone. Except maybe not. Some stories don't have clinical explanations. They don't need codes. They don't fit into progress notes. They just happen. And sometimes they stay with you longer than the ones that make medical sense. Thank you so much for watching and being part of this growing community. Your support means the world to us, and it's what keeps these creepy, fascinating, and sometimes comforting stories alive. We'd love to hear from you. If you've experienced something eerie, unexplained, or deeply moving, feel free to share your own story in the comments below. You never know, your story might be the next one featured. And if you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share to help keep the chills coming. We couldn't do this without you. See you in the next one.